What's up builders, it's me, Jimbotron. In today's video, I'm breaking down a full tier list of the current Overwatch Stadium meta. It's a bit of a longer one today, so buckle in, let's get into it. Before we start, quick note on where these rankings are coming from. If you don't care, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps. These rankings are based on tournament pick and ban rates from stadiumbuilds.io, combined with my own experience in the matches I've played. If you didn't know, stadiumbuilds.io are currently running the largest Overwatch Stadium esports events out there, with $2,000 up for grabs. And the best part is, it's completely open to join. So if you're interested in playing, or even just watching, I'll leave their Discord in the description. And just one more quick disclaimer. Like any game, what works at a coordinated, competitive level is always going to be different from the ranked ladder. So if your main ends up in D tier, don't panic. You can still climb with it. It just means it's less consistent at the highest level. But without further ado, let's get into it. Our first entry is Junker Queen. Out of the tournament, she was picked in 28 games and banned in 12, meaning overall she influenced 95% of all matches played. 95%. She's got some of the highest self-sustain, team healing, and cash generation in the entire mode. And to be honest, it feels like the entire stadium meta is shaped around her sometimes, with most of the high tier characters also being her biggest counters, which I just don't think is a coincidence. So yeah, this one's not exactly shocking. Next up, Junkrat. Junkrat actually has the second highest tournament presence overall, being played in 32 games and banned in 9. That's 41 games total, giving him a 97% impact rate. And honestly, have you seen weapon-powered Junkrat recently? Yeah, exactly. Not surprised either. Now this one was unexpected to me a little bit. We've got Mercy with the highest impact rate in the entire tournament, played in 30 games and banned in 12, meaning there was not a single game where Mercy didn't have some level of influence. And I'll be real with you, I didn't even want to put her in S tier because I'm aware of why she's here, and as a Genji player, this pains me. But when the numbers are literally 100%, you just have to accept it, sadly. And speaking of the reason why, Freya. Freya influenced 40 out of the 42 games played, but the big thing here is the bans. She had the highest ban rate in the tournament at 45%, or 19 games if you'd rather. If you didn't know, in this tournament both teams get a single ban, meaning people are going out of their way to use their only ban not play against this hero, which usually tells you everything you need to know. And finally, to round out S tier, we've got two supports that are just farming the ladder right now. Kiriko and Brig. Both of these heroes impacted 37 out of the 42 games played, which is already ridiculous on its own. But when you pair that with Junker Queen being completely uncontested as the best tank in the game, and Kiriko being one of the best counters to that, along with Brig just being the most reliable all-round support, yeah, these two are not leaving S tier anytime soon. Now moving on to A tier. From these picks, you can expect high-value heroes that can absolutely carry your ranked games on the right builds. They just don't have the same team comp defining impact that the S tier picks do. That being said, there's honestly an argument for almost every hero here to be moved up a tier. But if we start doing that, the whole idea of tier separation just falls apart. Starting off A tier, we have Soldier 76. This guy is honestly the most consistent DPS in the game. You always know exactly what you're getting with him. He was played in 29 games and only banned in 2, which pretty much tells you everything. Everyone's happy to play him, but nobody's scared enough to ban him unless you're running a Flyers comp. High A tier just feels perfect for this character. Next up, we have Vendetta. Now, this is the first time I'm kind of ignoring the stadiumbuilds.io pick rates, but for good reason. She was only picked in 11 out of 42 games, and wasn't banned at all, which might seem low. But as I mentioned in my previous DPS ranking video, Vendetta is currently insanely strong because of bugged item interactions. In the tournament, things like Creator and Scaled Steel are banned since they give her an unfair advantage with basically no counterplay. So in ranked, she's going to go crazy, but in tournament, not so much. Up next is Tracer. Picked in 20 games and banned in 10, which is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. Whenever there's a competitive environment, Tracer always finds her way into the meta somehow because of her high skill ceiling. Then we've got Cassidy. Cassidy is basically the higher damage, lower sustain version of Soldier. They both fill that hit scan role, just with different strengths and matchups. He was played in 28 games and only banned once, so clearly just as loved as Soldier and just as reliable. Next up is Zenyatta. I love this hero in Stadium. You've got the 30% Discord damage boost on top of the insane damage and healing output his kit already brings. This guy is the stat merchant most heroes wish they could be. Following that, we've got my personal favorite support, Ana. Now here's the thing, Ana is probably an S tier support. With how much sustain exists in the current meta, anti-nade is one of the only real ways to deal with it, and her presence alone forces enemies to build around negative effect resistance. But because Kiriko exists, and specifically the 2-Zoo power, Ana just never really gets to shine. Kiriko is played in around 88% of games, and is basically a full shutdown to everything Ana wants to do. So because of that, she just sits in A tier. Finally, we've got another tank, Hazard. Hazard was picked in 17 games and banned in 12, and in terms of raw damage output, I'll be honest, he probably beats Junker Queen. The problem is his sustain takes time to come online, whereas Junker Queen is already borderline broken from round 1 with Royal Bullets. So he just can't quite keep up, but he's still a very strong pick. And to finish off A tier, we have Ashe. I don't think Ashe is better or worse than Soldier or Cassidy. Personally, I'd put all three of them on the exact same level. But based on tournament data, she was picked 15 times and banned 4, which is slightly lower, and it's probably for the same reason Ana is an S tier, because Kiriko just shuts down a lot of what she wants to do. So for that reason, she sits a little lower within A tier, but still has a ton of damage potential. Now moving on to B tier, and this is where we're looking at more niche characters. Each of these heroes is really good at doing their specific thing, and if played right, you can still have a big impact in your games. They're just not as consistent as the higher tiers. Coming in at the top of B tier, and this is the second time I'm going against the pick rates, and I think this one's going to shock a lot of you. We've got Lucio. Lucio was picked in 29 games and banned in 6 of them, and honestly I think this is mainly because the two most played tanks, Junker Queen and Hazard, both perform really well with him. But in your average ranked game, I don't think Lucio does much more than any other support, so for that reason I'm putting him in B tier. Up next we have Mei. Out of all the DPS, Mei probably has the highest tank potential. She was picked in 13 games and banned in none. I feel like Mei is one of those characters that won't see much value in a competitive setting, but can get a lot out of ranked, basically the opposite of Lucio, so for that reason she also sits in B tier. Up next, and for pretty much the same reason, we have Torb. Torb was picked in 12 games and banned in 3. Like Mei, his whole thing is building tanky and having strong close-range presence. The difference is Mei focuses more on control with her walls, whereas Torb is more about raw damage output. Up next we have Sigma, and what a fall from grace. Sigma and Junker Queen shared the crown last season. If one got banned, the other was played. It just made sense. But since they nerfed apogee alignment from 100% to 50% damage, Sigma just can't play into Junker Queen, Hazard, and Reinhardt like he used to. Still picked in 15 games though, so people are finding ways to make it work. Speaking of that, next up we've got the Hammerman himself, Reinhardt. Now, if we were going purely off pick rate, Rein would honestly be sitting low C tier, maybe even D tier, with only 7 games played. But here's the interesting part, he was banned 9 times. That's more bans than plays, and more bans than some A tier heroes. Even if some of that is target banning, you can't ignore the fact that teams are willing to ban this hero over things like Junker Queen and Hazard. That alone is enough to keep him in B tier. Following that, we have another support, Juno. Now, in ranked, I actually think Juno does more than Lucio, but in tournament she was picked in 13 games and banned in 2. And it makes sense, if you want speed, you pick Lucio. If you want utility or survivability, you pick Brig or Kiriko. But one thing Juno does really well is group pressure. She can output a lot of AoE damage with pulsars, which can be really strong in poke comps. Next up, we have Wu Yang. Wu Yang is capable of doing more damage than any other support in the game when running his Pain Drops power, and his amplification can be really strong when boosting team sustain. But at the end of the day, a support whose main job is to support doesn't really have a solid place being the highest damage dealer on the team, so he ends up in B tier. And finally, we've got the cyber ninja himself, Genji. Genji was picked 11 times and banned 2, and honestly, the difference between B tier and C tier here is really small. I've edged him up slightly out of preference, but realistically, Genji just struggles to find a place in this meta. Tracer does his job better in most situations, and with how strong Freya and Brig are, matchups he has basically no counterplay into, it's really hard to justify putting him any higher. So Genji lands in B tier. And now onto C tier. These are heroes that could probably receive a buff or two and most people wouldn't even notice. The best way to put it is they do their job pretty well, but there's just another hero that does that same job better. And just to be clear, none of these heroes are bad in any way. You can easily go on a 10-game win streak with any of them. Starting off C tier, we have D.Va. And honestly, my personal ranking would probably have her in B tier. She was played in 7 games and banned in 4 of them. The main reason she's picked in tournament is for defense matrix. Denying damage also means denying cash, which is really strong. But outside of that, she's kind of just a sitting duck. Her sustain without matrix is pretty weak, and both her AP and WP builds take too long to come online. By the time they do, you've already lost the cash game and you're too far behind to recover. So she lands at the top of C tier. Up next we have Pharah. Pharah honestly isn't bad at all, but she has 2 massive problems. First, every major hitscan character is played pretty much every game. They all have high pick rates and low bans, so you're almost guaranteed to be playing into one. And second, if you're going for a flyer, Freya just does everything better right now. Honestly, a couple of Freya nerfs and Pharah probably jumps up a tier, but for now she sits in C. Next up, we've got 2 tanks that are kind of in the same spot right now. Both of them have one strong build that can carry games, but again, Junker Queen just does everything they do, but better. First is Orisa. She can be very tanky and has some of the highest poke damage in the tank roster on paper. But most stadium maps are quite short, so range isn't really an advantage, and up close she just loses to most of the higher tier tanks. Maybe she can deal with Rein in some cases, but even then, AP Rein can still run her over. She's carried by a few strong item interactions, but there's just no way to justify putting her higher than C based on her overall impact. To go alongside her, we've got Zarya. And this one's a bit painful. In the base game, Zarya is known for her insane damage and how oppressive her bubbles can be. But in Stadium, where people can either build to counter your damage or just outscale you entirely, she really struggles. And in coordinated play, where people just don't shoot the bubble, she becomes even weaker. She has a few matchups where she works, but outside of that, there's just not much reason to pick her. And finally, to finish off C tier, we have Moira. And I already know some of you are not going to like this one. You're thinking, how is Moira C tier when she MVPs all my ranked games? And that's exactly it. She MVPs because she's a stat merchant. She offers very little utility outside of raw damage and healing. And you know who else does that? Zenyatta. The difference is Zen does it better, with more damage, more impact, a stronger ultimate, and actual utility through Discord. So because of that, Moira just gets outshined in this role and ends up in C tier. And now, the bottom of the barrel. This is D tier. And I just want to say one more time before I get jumped in the comments, there is nothing stopping you from climbing all the way to top 500 with any of these characters. And if you've done that, then congratulations, you're probably better than 99% of Stadium players. But these are the heroes that I think genuinely need buffs to be properly welcomed back into the meta. Taking the first spot, we've got Doomfist. And I think everyone can relate when I say we've all had that Doomfist on our team. The one who claims they're a god at the game, and then somehow manages to personally create a 10,000 cash gap and single-handedly mercy rules your team. Sadly, that's the reality for most Doom players right now. He did see a bit of play, and somehow even caught a ban, but overall, he's just one of the lowest impact characters in the game right now. Up next, we have Sojourn, and this one just feels wrong. Sojourn is a menace in pro play in the base game, so seeing her down here just feels illegal. But it really comes down to the fact she has almost no viable self-sustain options outside of lifesteal on slide. You're not getting significantly more damage than other hit scan picks, but you're getting way less survivability, so it just feels like you're handicapping yourself by picking her. Her AP build is nice, but once again, she's another Kiriko victim. And now the last two, and these are honestly a step below everything else here. Coming in second to last, we've got Winston. He was played once, in the entire tournament. One game. And for a character that used to be S tier, that's rough. Since they nerfed most forms of cooldown reduction, it's become way harder and more expensive to get value out of him. You have to put in so much more effort for the same result that other tanks get for free. There's just no reason to pick him over Hazard, and if you're thinking about shields, even Orisa has a better shield setup right now. Winston desperately needs buffs. And finally, the man, the myth, the legend, Reaper. To put it simply, Reaper sucks. He gets hard countered by armor, which is incredibly easy to stack, so his damage just falls off a cliff unless you rush Codebreaker. And even when you do that, you've already committed your entire build just to function. His ability build basically turns you into a free elimination, and if you try to go tanky, Mei and Torb just do that job way better anyway. If any character in Stadium needs a full rework instead of just buffs, it's this one. And finally, here is a full overview of the tier list. I'm going to keep this on screen for a second while I nail this message home. Every character in Stadium has the potential to hard carry a game. They all are unique in their own ways and can find value in nearly every scenario. Everybody is good at something, and if you think that a random small YouTuber putting your main in C tier makes that character unviable, then I'm sorry, but you'd be wrong. Play what you think is the most fun, because even though these are based on tournament figures, having fun is the most important part about playing video games. Anyway, that's everything from me today, builders. Thank you for sticking around. Till next time, builders.